trying to get this new contraption called a computer working. Oh. Can you see me?
Oh, yeah, I can see you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, too.
So we're good.
We're good there, Mr. Man.
Hey.
Well, hey, Mark, this has been a great pleasure. I mean, I've been with you guys for a long, long time. And, you know, I mean, Vanilla Fudge, holy cow, like they call you the forefathers of psychedelic rock. And that doesn't really do you justice at all.
It doesn't do us justice?
No, you guys are a huge band. And so are you surviving COVID and everything?
Excuse me. Well, I'm a little early today, but forgive me.
Oh, that's
yes, fine. I am surviving COVID. I'm surviving everything. Surviving old age. I'm surviving the rock and roll business. I survived the road. I just got back from a tour with the Fudge. Yeah, it was really cool. So, yeah, I mean, you know, Vanilla Fudge came out, you know, during the musical renaissance of the late 60s. And I guess we dared to be different with our, you know, symphonic arrangements. The critics called us psychedelic. We called ourselves dramatic.
I mean,
and symphonic. But
you did some great work. I mean, how you took songs that were already out there, changed it, made it your own, and really made it like Eleanor Rigby. I think you made it better.
Well, George Harrison really loved it. You know, he used to go around to parties with the first Vanilla Fudge album all the time, playing it for all his peers. He was really impressed, you know, with the approach that we had towards not only their music, but, you know, just the whole musical ideology of the day. It was just, it was an amazing time, you know.
Now,
then, yeah, go ahead.
Now, you know, of course, you've probably been asked this a million times, but, you know, for our listeners and viewers there, give them a little tidbit of how Vanilla Fudge actually got started.
Well, we were just a bunch of kids playing in local bands in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area. We were just like everybody else when we were teenagers. We all wanted to be pop stars. We wanted to be famous, you know. That was the goal. We practiced hard. We listened to, you know, a lot of Motown. We listened to the Beatles. We listened to all the great music of the day. And we were influenced by bands like the Rascals, you know, and bands like a band called the Vagrants, which was, you know, probably the first band that I ever saw taking songs and putting drama and dynamics to them, slowing songs down. And, you know, Leslie West actually was the guitar player in that band in the mid 60s. Okay. And yeah, we were just a product of our influences. And I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to take songs and, you know, reimagine them like we did with Eleanor Rigby and Bang Bang. And of course, ultimately you keep hanging on. A whole collection of songs, and we blended individually and collectively for our age. You know, in retrospect, it's amazing, you know, what the kind of product that we put out so young back in those days. But it definitely has its place in history. And it was a very influential band, and we're still wondering why we're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Us plus a host of other bands from our time as well. But be that as it may, it was a blessing to be part of, you know, the center of the pop music culture back then. And here we are, fast forward over a half a century later, and we're still talking, man.
I tell you. Now we always ask people, now when you got started, you know, as a band, was it for the love of music? Was it for money? Or was it just to pick up girls?
It was all that stuff. It was all that. Probably the latter. But no, it was all that stuff. Yeah, it was. I mean, music. There was nothing like the excitement and the fulfillment that you got when you knew you were good. When you knew you were, you know, blending and creating. It was an incredible thing to do. it was just great playing all the places, in the area where we grew up, and developing a following and developing our style and going into the studio and laying down the tracks and hearing people get really excited about our new approach and our new sound. And yeah, it was very, very cool.
Now, the name itself is unique in itself. Now, how did you come up with Vanilla Fudge?
Well, it's really a very simple, naive story, which has a double meaning. Ahmet Erdogan loved the band, the president of Atlantic Atco. And we were called, before that, we were called the Pigeons, okay? That was given to us by, that name was given to us by a popular songwriter of the day by the name of Jeff Barry. Well, there was the animals, and there was the seeds, and there was the birds, and the pigeons seemed to fit into that genre back then in 1966, But anyway, Ahmet fell in love with our sound and our style. I said, you got to change your name. It's going to have to come up with something stronger. So we started tossing it around. So we were at my manager's club at Long Island. And this girl came up that was in one of the local bands, said, I heard you looking to change your name. Why don't you call yourselves Vanilla Fudge? Because my granddad used to call me Vanilla Fudge because I used to eat so much vanilla fudge ice cream when I was a kid. It's that silly. But the sound of it was really cool. That we really liked the ring of it, Later on, we started becoming successful. The critics thought that was like a brilliant idea because it was white guys doing soul music with a psychedelic twist. So hence Vanilla Fudge came into being on that level, So if you think about it.
When did you know, hey, I'm a rock star? When did that actually hit you, when you actually realized that?
Well, I guess it really hit me hard when, I guess when we did the first time we were on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Well, that's pretty cool right there.
Because that was the pinnacle, man. In 1968, being on that show, when you're on the Sullivan Show, that was it, man. You were a star. You made it. You were in everybody's living room at 8 o'clock or whenever it was, 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. You were in America's living room, and you became a household word at that time. So, and then everywhere you went for a month after that, you couldn't go anywhere without being recognized and asked for your autograph. Our records would jump 30, 40 points up on the Billboard charts because of the incredible, millions of people seeing the incredible exposure. So that's when I really felt like a real pop star. It was a lot of fun hanging out with like Flip Wilson, Duke Ellington. I mean, all the amazing, superstars of the day, the Temptations. I mean, you name it, man. And then we became, I was a fan of everybody, and everybody started becoming a fan of me and the band. So it was a glorious time, man, to be young and to be around.
So how did you actually get on Ed Sullivan?
Well, because our records were becoming very popular. We were getting a lot of airplay. And it was the trend that, when you were having hit albums and hit records, part of the thing was getting on the Ed Sullivan Show. It was all part of the big promotion. Yeah.
I mean, you've worked with a lot of people. I've been watching a lot of your interviews and everything. And one thing that was really, really cool was your experience with Michael Jackson.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he actually sang on some songs that you were working on.
Yeah, at the time, I guess it was around 1980. I was touring and recording with Dave Mason. We Just Disagree, Feeling All Right, Fame, and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Traffic, and all of that. But Dave and I, we ended up working together in the late 70s into the early 80s, and we were in LA doing a record, an album, and I was coming out and taking a break, and I walked into into the room where the coffee was and all of that, and I saw Michael Jackson hanging out by the soda machine. And I was like, wow, that's Michael Jackson. I got to go. I went up and I introduced myself. And he was really cool. He happened to be working in another studio down the hall with his brothers, the Jackson, on a project. I said, Michael, why don't you, would you want to come in the studio and check out this track? Because at the time, he had a multi-platinum record called Off the Wall. It's a really big album with a lot of hits on it. And we happened to have a track called Save Me that had the same kind of groove as a bunch of the grooves that were on his album. It was influenced by him, a lot of really cool R&B pop funk stuff. So we came in and I told the engineer to put the track up, and he started smiling, snapping his fingers and dancing around the studio. I said, dude, why don't you go inside? There's a live mic in there, man. Why don't you go in and sing on it? Why don't you go and scat on the track? And he did. He went in and put the earphones on, put the track on, and in one take, he just started singing and scatting over the track, and just completely, blew me away. It was just an incredible moment. It was like a night in heaven for me, and it sounded amazing. And he came back in and we were checking it out, and he was smiling. We were ecstatic, and he said good night. It was really fun. Working with you.
And what was the name of the song?
Huh?
What was the name of the song?
The song is called Save Me.
Save Me.
Save Me. And you can Google Save Me by Dave Mason. You can hear Dave Mason, Michael Jackson, and Mark Stein, 3 vocalists, singing on this really cool track. And I'm playing some organ on that. And so it was a great night. Unfortunately, I think his father had issues with, he wasn't really supposed to be doing something like that. He just took the freedom to do it. I think it's something to do with, contractually wasn't cool to do it.
Oh, so he probably got grounded after that.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't get. I guess they just didn't. They just didn't promote it the way I was hoping, because I had written a whole bunch of songs on that album, and I was so excited because I said, "Wow, Michael Jackson's on this record, man! It's going to pull the album way up the charts." And I got all these songs on the record that I wrote, and I'm gonna, make a lot of money. It's gonna be great. And unfortunately, it didn't quite pan out that way. But the song is still there, and I still have bragging rights. So it's a pretty cool story.
That's outstanding. Now you've been with you toured all over the world. What do you think your #1 concert you did that would always stick in your mind?
Wow, after thousands of shows, that's a pretty interesting question. One show. Well, what comes to mind is back in 1988. When Atlantic had the 40th anniversary at Madison Square Garden in New York. And it was like 3 or 4 days of rock and roll heaven, okay? Everybody from the Bee Gees to Vanilla Fudge to Led Zeppelin to the Rascals to the Average White Band to, just everybody that was on Atlantic for 40 years all converged in New York, and it was an incredible event. And, just going up and take me for a little while and take me and you keep me hanging on in front of sold out 20,000 people, seeing Phil Collins hanging out on the side of the stage and coming up to me afterwards saying, when I was a boy, I loved you guys. I used to listen to you growing up in my room, your music, and getting off the stage and shaking hands with the likes of Dr. Henry Kissinger,
Holy cow.
Well,
did he have a lighter up in the audience?
Yeah. That was the place to be, that week in New York City. Everybody, man, actors, comedians, the greatest superstars in rock history were at that show, hanging out with Led Zeppelin, talking about the old days when they actually used to open for us when they broke in.
Oh man,
that was quite a story in history.
Now you're mentioning all these famous people. What person did you meet that you could say, "Hey, I was awestruck"?
Well, I was probably awestruck by Felix Cavalieri when I was a kid. He's the great rock, blue-eyed soul singer and organ player with the Rascals, who were, a huge band, back in the 60s. And he was the first cat that I saw and met that was, playing the Hammond B3 organ when I was about 18 years old. And I used to go and watch him as much as I could. He was like my main influence. So much so that I almost begged my dad to help me get my first Hammond organ, which he was gracious enough to do. He was just a working guy, but he put down $3,000 and paid it off so I can get one, so I could learn how to play that instrument, which was the beginning of it all for me, But Felix was probably the first dude because he was just an incredible cat. He had a lot of influence on me and a lot of people. That band did,
You've been on a lot of interviews. One I saw that was kind of funny was Mike Douglas. You remember that interview you did with Mike Douglas?
I do remember that.
And it was funny because he looked at you and he was so serious. He goes, it's been said that people smoke pot when they listen to your music.
Wow.
And you're sitting there going, and then he goes, I'm serious. They say that people smoke pot when they listen to your music, and you're just over there, and
I don't really recall what I said, but at the time it was kind of a scary subject, back then. It was like taboo, But I can remember one thing, Richard Harris was also on the show, and he was enjoying incredible fame with Camelot and I Left My Cake Out in the Rain. That song was like number one.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a huge star, and he was drinking a lot. And I remember him screaming out and said, "I've got one right over here," and he like made like he was holding up a joint, and everybody laughed. They made a joke out of it. He kind of broke the ice, and then he turned around. Actually, during the day at the dress rehearsal, he mooned the audience. He was nuts. It was crazy. And then the two of us after the show went and found the backstreet bar in Philadelphia and got blind drunk together, man. It was great. It was great to be like 20 years old and be in the middle of all this, It was really cool.
Now, when you had your, because you hear a lot of these rock bands, when they go on tours, they throw TVs out of, hotel windows. Did you ever have an experience with doing that?
Doing what now?
Some of these rock bands, they get all crazy, after a show and they throw TVs out windows. Oh, yeah.
Well, I saw a lot of that stuff. I'm an honest guy. If I would have participated in that, I would have said, yeah, I was a bad boy. I saw it happen. And even now, I just thought it was incredibly disrespectful. It was really a bunch of crap, because somebody had to pay for it, destroying property like that. And throwing stuff out of windows. I mean, who knows who was downstairs that could have got hurt. I never approved of anything like that. Not to say I was no angel, but that was something I really did not approve of. But it did happen. Yeah, it did happen. Among lots of other things. So,
now, this happens with, most groups. Now, you had the hiatus where you was living the life. When did you know, hey, something's not clicking anymore? I mean, with Vanilla Fudge, when did you actually see that point happening?
Well, we started getting burned out around 1970, I think like Tim and Carmine wanted to go separate ways, and I wanted to do different things, and so did Vinny. We all started being influenced by a lot of the bands that we were touring with, like, like Ginger Baker and, and Jack Bruce and the Cream. They were like a, incredible rhythm section. I think Carmine and Timmy wanted to go in that direction. I wanted to keep the flame going with the Fudge. I wanted to actually write songs and keep it going. But, and another thing was we were, excuse me, we were touring so much, man. We were so tired, we were spending way too much time together. It's like bad enough having one wife and having four at the same time, always being together. But it's not easy,
Oh, yeah.
And quite honestly, first fame is very difficult to digest. It's far more pleasant the second time around, the third time around, and so forth. But first fame is hard to handle. It's like, I don't know, it's just like an explosion of egos and people, you just change, man. It's a tough thing to go through. you know, people always looking up, putting you up on a pedestal all the time. And sometimes you just want to be you and you can't be you. And I don't know. It's a pretty crazy thing. But yeah, it was around 1970 and we just started getting stale and the collective passion we had together was starting to wane. So that was about when I started feeling the end was near at that time. Yeah. But we reunited a multitude of times over the next, 30, 40 years. But at that time, yeah, it was kind of a sad time for me too, because, for me, it was like my family and then the family kind of broke up, but that's the way it was.
Now, when you do concerts now, do you have people just singing your songs out there along with you? I mean, is it
Yeah.
just like it was before?
Well, it just happened last week. We're playing at Sony Hall in New York City, and people, it was packed, the people went nuts. They love to sing, Keep Me Hanging On with us. Because I asked the audience in the last verse to sing it, and we stop, and the whole audience sings the, you just keep me, like, it's awesome. You hear them echoing all the way through the streets of New York, man. It's really cool. And what's really cool is last Monday night, Joe Bonamassa came over and he came up and jammed with us on Shotgun. So that was really a treat. The people went nuts, That was fun.
So what do you got going on now with you?
Well, my solo album, There's a Light, is coming out on Black Friday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, my solo album. And it's, it's like a potpourri of, all the best tunes and productions I put together. And I wrote a song called We Are One around April of 2020 when the pandemic, was raging. And it reflects the times we were going through. I was just sitting at the piano and this kind of lyrics came to me, here we are battening down the hatches, afraid to shake our neighbor's hand, hug our children. What's the plan to survive? And then this lyric came to me, we had so many chances to spread some love and human kindness all of our lives. And to me, this karmic thing was developing within my spirit. This whole thing could be like a karmic thing because we've survived world wars and, hurricanes and 9/11 and economic disasters, political divide, which we all know we're going through now. And we seem to never learn, but the thing that tied it together is, hey, we are one under God, under the sun. We are one. And when this battle's over and done, we'll be one again. And it goes on to have a very positive message. And I wanted to release it as a single. We started to shop a deal, but a lot of the labels wanted a whole album. And kind of looked back at the things I had recorded in the past, and it just was coincidental that I had a whole string of songs that were songs of love and patriotism and songs that talked about, social matters that we've all been faced with and been dealing with. I have songs on there called like All Lives Matter and songs like Racism and songs like the one I just mentioned, We Are One, and they all kind of intertwine, and the album has a message, a positive message, and it's called There's a Light. And I call it There's a Light because one of the lines from We Are One says there's a light that burns so deep within us, if only we could find a way to keep it turned on and stay positive. It could be a much better world going forward.
No, with all the people you've met and all the shows you've done, when are you going to do a autobiography, write a book about all this?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because my book, You Keep Me Hanging On, The Raging Story of Rock Music's Golden Age, has actually been out for a number of years. So
oh, outstanding. And how would people get that? Are they just go to Amazon?
You can go to Amazon, but you could go to mark-stein.com and you can get an autographed and numbered copy, which is what a lot of people are doing. I just got up the road. I just shipped out a whole bunch of books just 2 days ago, actually. So, yeah, that's a cool way to go. But you can go to Amazon or mark-stein.com.
Outstanding. I want one. I want one because, man, I mean, just reading up on you and everything, it's a very interesting read. Just reviewing what you guys have done. I mean, it's outstanding.
Well, what's cool about it is everybody in the band has played with a multitude of people over the last half century. You know, Carmine's played with he's probably played with more people. He should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. He's probably played drums, you know, more bands than anybody. You know, from Ted Nugent to Rod Stewart to Jeff Beck and myself. I've toured with Alice Cooper. I played with Dave Mason. I played with Tommy Bolin. You know, I've made appearances with Deep Purple, and you know, I did some shows with Carl Palmer and tributes to Keith Emerson with me and Steve Hackett and Carl Palmer. I've made appearances with Steve Miller. I've done a lot of stuff over my career that a lot of people probably don't know about, but you know, I'm talking about it now, and a lot of it's in the book.
So, if you could go back, let's say I would be retroactive and go back to, would there be anything you would change if you could go back and do something with your career?
Yeah. I think, you know what, if I could go back and I had a time machine, I would go back and I would say, hold on, don't release that second album called The Beat Goes On. Because the very first album was such a, you know, was such a blockbuster, the way we kind of changed formats, you know, coming up with these long symphonic arrangements, and we were the darlings of, you know, underground and FM radio at the time. And then our producer had this idea, which was very ambitious at the time, but it didn't play out so well. It was kind of like an album, a chronology of music and time that started over 200 years. But it came out very pretentious. The one saving grace on that was our rendition of Moonlight Sonata and Fur Elise, but there really wasn't too much on there you could play on the radio. And as a concept, in theory, at the time, it was a experimental time. So, you know, and everybody went along with it at the time too. But in retrospect, it was probably the biggest marketing blunder in classic rock history at that time. Because if we would have put out the same thing we did in the first album and mixed up a couple of originals, you know, we would have taken the band a heck of a lot higher and faster. But that kind of, you know, pushed us back a bit. And if I had one thing I would change, that's what I would change. I would never release that second album.
No, outstanding. Hey, when are you guys going to tour Arkansas?
ASAP.
That's what I'm talking about.
Arkansas, you know, wow, man. I don't know if we played Arkansas very much even during the 60s. I know we played Alabama. I can't remember. I know there's a heck of a lot of great blues and great music out of that state, and a lot of great people that I've run across.
Well, we'd love to have you here.
Huh?
We'd love to have you come here.
Well, I'd be more than happy to do it. Maybe sometime next year with my solo band and you know, my solo career. I'll come down and you know, meet you all and play some music for you.
Well, when you come down here, we'll take you out to some of the best barbecue in the state.
Oh man, that sounds amazing, because you know, around here, I'm living in South Florida, but I tell you, I always wanted to have the best barbecue, and I bet Arkansas has got the best barbecue, man.
Yeah, we'll take you over to the Mean Pig of all places. This is supposed to be the best place in the United States for barbecue.
I'll bet. Well, I'll make sure I bring my wife with me, because she loves good barbecue too.
Outstanding. And all you got to do is look us up and we'll take you out to eat. And we'll just love to have you, especially have you in concert down here, because you are a phenomenon in rock and roll. And you should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if I had my vote.
Well, I appreciate that, guy. That's really nice of you to say.
But thank you so much for coming on there, Mark. I know you're a very busy man, but you've been great, man. You have absolutely been great. And it's been a pleasure having you on.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here. And I just wish everybody in Arkansas and everywhere to stay well and stay safe. And let's get this crazy thing behind us and move forward and keep rocking and just keep moving forward in a positive fashion. So.
Outstanding. And you have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving and Christmas, Mr. Man.
Yeah, you too, Mr. Guy. Okay, cool.
Okay. You take care there, Mark. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See ya.
Mr. Mark Stein from Vanilla Fudge. I mean, one of the legends of rock and roll and soon to be in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that's it for everybody. This is Roy Doyle with www.arkansasshowcaseradio.com show. Bye-bye. There goes Mark, and we're out of here.
See you, man.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.